This is exciting. Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads and welcome back to my channel. Today with the second video in my 2022 recap series, duology rather. In today's video we are talking about my favorite books of 2022, and I am not going to make this into a ranking. I am not going to pick one book that is the favorite, for the simple reason that I was just not able to do that. And I was sitting for quite some time thinking, okay, which of these would be the favorite of the year? And I just couldn't pick like the one book. So I decided I will highlight the book that I remember the most fondly, that I just loved the most, that I found the most entertaining, that I had the most fun with, the ones that just stuck with me for one reason or another. And that's, I think, what I want to do. What I did though is I broke it down into different genres / types of books. You'll see what I mean with that in just a minute, to at least have some sort of structure to this whole video. But besides that, it's just me gushing about the books that I read. And I'm going to start with a short story. And I know short story is not a genre, but one, the book that I'm picking, I don't quite know what genre I would put it under. And two, you know, it's my favorite short story that I read. So, you know, I'm just rolling with it. I didn't... I don't know. I wanted to talk about this book and I just didn't know what other category to put it in. So, and that would be Zoo by A.C. Cross, which is a short story that I read not too long ago, which I found by accident. I don't know. I think I was scrolling something on Discord and someone mentioned it and the cover just caught my attention. And then I read what it was about and I thought, oh, that's actually interesting. So Zoo is A.C. Cross's kind of imagination of what his mind looks like as someone who deals with mental health issues. And I thought it was just so well written and so well depicted that it till today is stuck with me. And I thought it was so unique and so interesting and such a fantastic idea of picturing mental illnesses as kind of attractions in a mental zoo that, yeah, I just had to put it in this list. Plus, I think it's incredibly courageous to write about yourself in that manner. Like, he talks about things that people usually don't talk about, and I find that so impressive that he did that, and I hope it was really cathartic for him to have done that. I'll just go in the order now that the books are stacked in front of me. The next one falls into the category nonfiction, which is The Collected Schizophrenias. I still can't pronounce it properly in English. Schizophrenias. Essays by Asmi Wei-Jun Wang, and I apologize if I'm still pronouncing the name wrong, which is, as the name says, are essays from Asmi. They're describing her own life as someone who is living with schizophrenia. And all of these essays that she has in here share something about her, share a specific moment in her life and what it means to be diagnosed with schizophrenia, to go to therapy for that, to continue living life as normal as possible, And yeah, I thought it was very eye-opening. It was very educational, and I just really enjoyed reading her story, even though it's not an enjoyable topic in that sense. That was a book recommended to me by Kate from the Literary Apothecary. We talked about that during the Reading Across the Shelf live show, where we talked about mental health topics in books, and she has read it, I think, multiple times by now, and she just read it in preparation also for that live show and spoke very highly of it. So I ordered it right after that and then read it pretty much immediately after that as well. If mental health is a topic you're interested in, if you want to hear from other people who are dealing with specific mental health issues, schizophrenia in that regard, I highly recommend it. I find it very interesting to hear from other people on how they deal with their mental health situation. Completely different direction next. Romance, since I've surprisingly read a lot of romance books this year. The one that I really enjoyed the most was The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane, which is a male romance about It's like a Bachelor-like TV show where the main character seems to be just kind of off and distant and not really approachable, and his producer is supposed to help him open up and be more camera friendly, as they say. Well, you can imagine what that leads to as they get closer and get to know each other more. And it's just a heartwarming, it really says right here on the cover, heartwarming rom-com. That's exactly that. It's wholesome, it's heartwarming. The character descriptions were so great. The romance was great. I loved every second of this book. There was even a lot of depth to it that you usually don't necessarily find in romance books. So yeah, and it was just a really unique story. I love this whole concept of, they don't call it Bachelor in here, probably for copyright reasons, but you know what I mean. It's like a show like this. Thrillers and horror and mystery, like I throw that into one bucket. I've read quite a bit, especially since I've read a lot of Richard Bachman books together with Jake from the Bookish Drummer this year. But they actually didn't make it on the list, even though I really enjoyed reading them. And there were some really, really interesting, just, you know, being in people's head kind of studies. The one that I want to highlight, though, is The Push by Ashley Audrain. This, I think, is the first time that I got so riled up by a book that I wanted to throw it against the wall after I was done reading it. And not because it's terrible, but because the way she wrote the characters just made me react in such an extreme manner that I just didn't know what to do with all those emotions that I all of a sudden had. And it was mostly anger at the husband in this book. So The Push is about a mother who just struggles with her two children and struggles with a husband who kind of lets her deal with being a mother while he is working, and kind of tries to play down the drama she has on a daily basis with the children. And it's kind of a situation where it feels like he's blaming her for being a bad mother. It's just the way she wrote those characters and she explained what was happening that felt so real that I just couldn't do anything else than wanting to strangle this husband. Oh, so much. At the end of the day, that I was just sitting here, was like, this is impressive. That someone wrote something that made me want to claw myself out of my skin and just explode. And I don't know, I still have so much stuff going on that I don't know, like, what to do with it. Kind of, how do I channel this anger from this book? I mean, if that's not a reason to be on a favorite list, then I don't know. With the next category, I will have two books for the same genre, and that is science fiction. One of them is a recent one. That is Hammer and Crucible. That was one of our quarterfinalists for the self-published science fiction competition that I'm participating in, in case you haven't realized this yet. And I just loved it. It was so much fun. It was a real great balance between like dense, detailed science fiction and just fluffy entertainment, and still gave you enough that you could kind of hold on to want to learn more about. Plus, something that I thought was unique, and I couldn't recall any other book that had kind of a family relation like this, is the granddaughter-grandmother relationship that we get to know here. And I thought that was just interesting. And there are a lot of things that I just simply enjoyed in this book. I read it within 2 days. And the first thing I did after I was done was buying the second book because I want to know how it continues. So yeah, that is sci-fi book number 1 on my favorite list for 2022. And the other sci-fi book on that list is O.R. Lear's Ribekite, however you pronounce this correctly, which is book 1 in a now duology. And the second book is coming out in the not too distant future, I believe. And the reason why I liked it is because, again, of its uniqueness factor from the story. It's about a female scientist who is realizing something is wrong with that alien dust that is coming down from the moon. And while everybody was thinking, oh, it's creating issues with the respiratory system, there's actually something else hidden. Again, a conspiracy that is being discovered as the book continues. Really interesting concept when it comes to aliens in here. And then also it's just a different setting. It plays in the Middle East. You have a really strong female character, actually two. And that whole concept, like that it brings in those unique aspects, that really sold me on this book. And I keep recommending it. I keep talking about it since I read it. And I will continue recommending it because I think it's just a great book. Plus, I really love this cover. And now we come to the final genre, the one that I've read the most of, my favorite one anyway. And all the books that I'm going to mention are actually whole series, whole trilogies. Not just one book, but I'm recommending a whole trilogy. So, well, I read some really interesting books this year. What can I say? And I'm starting it off with Allegra Pescatore, where the series is called The Last Gift, and the first arc is a trilogy. She is in the middle of writing book 4. And this is something that I actually found through the Escapist book tours, and it just sounded interesting, so I signed up for it. She sent me a physical copy that is even signed, and I fell in love with it. So the reason why I fell in love with book 1 was it sounded like a more untypical fantasy, where the base has some epic fantasy element, but she brought it into the modern world. So there is modern language use. They have showers in the castle. There's some form of electricity and light available, which you might think would turn you off, but it actually fits really well to just how the tone is set in this book. You have a really strong female character, again, who deals with a disability. And what I love about it is that Allegra didn't try to make the main character fit a normal world, but the other way around. As I said, I fell in love with the first book. And then Escapist Tour continued, and they did another tour for book 2, which is Whispers in Stone. And when I saw this cover with this cute little dragon up here, I was like, okay, I just have to continue. And then at the same time as the tour happened with book 2, book 3, These Gossamer Strings came out. And Allegra sent me a beta version of it, so I had to read it immediately. And I was done. After I've read those 3 books, I was done. She is doing something really incredible with this series that I can only partially talk about because it's kind of a spoiler. But one of the things that is so interesting about it is that it's not just this series that she wrote. She wrote multiple series, some of them with multiple authors, and they all play in the same universe. And you have Easter eggs of each story with like across the different book series. And there are things that happen in other books that then impact the other series. It's mind-blowing. Like once she told me a little bit more about that during our interview, and once I realized what's happening in this trilogy, and I read the 2 novellas that belong to the Last Gift series as well, I was blown away. This is such a great concept of, cross referencing different series, and if I understand it correctly, eventually they all lead together to one story. This trilogy alone has so many things that are just amazing. There is, as I said, dragons. The characters are all so unique. They all have something that they bring to the table that makes you want to learn more from them. There's a great political intrigue going on. There's so many twists in this book that keep you on your toes at any given time. It is a great pacing. The writing is beautiful. It's all in all a great, also indie published trilogy that keeps on growing. The next series that I want to talk about is The Chronicles of the Bleep Queen, which I recently heard that they might have changed the name of the trilogy. I'm not sure. But The Wolf of Orenyaru is the first book. The Ikisa Falcon is book number 2. And then you have The Dragon of Jin Sayeng as the third book. And they all become chunkier as the series continues. But this was one that I actually don't know how I heard about that, but I know since I've read it, I've heard multiple booktubers talk about it. So this is a series that I would not recommend to everyone. It is very specific, especially the writing style. And while when you just look at the description, it sounds like typical epic fantasy set in an Asian world, it is not really that. I mean, it is epic fantasy because it is a ginormous world. The way this is written is very different to your typical epic fantasy. You only get the perspective of Queen Taliene, which is our main character, and throughout all the 3 books, she is the one telling you what's going on. It's not just that she tells you like kind of what's happening and, you know, the story itself. It goes a lot deeper. So this is really a character study of Queen Taliene, of her challenges, and then even with throwbacks to her childhood, what happened with her father, and how she became the person that she is now. There's also a lot of exploration around women in leadership because she is running a country which is not typical in this world. And she struggles because of that. And she has to face a lot of negativity and people being against her and doubting her. And like, there's a lot of that just in here. And I really appreciated that because 1, it was really well done, I thought. And 2, again, it is just so refreshing to see something like this and to see something I find myself in and can identify myself with. Which, I mean, I'm not a queen of a country, but I am a woman in a tech world, and I've had my fair share of, you know, troubles with that. Anyway, I really enjoyed exploring her world and her situation that she was in, and, you know, being devastated with her, being happy with her, being in love with her. There was just so much that I was able to get out of this series emotionally and creatively. And I don't know. I'm thinking really fondly of that. And the final series that I want to mention was a total surprise, and not just for me, but for many people this year, because multiple people picked this up at the same time. I think Leslie started it. She read the first book of this. And then I remembered, oh, I have this on my shelf because I found it on Book Outlet randomly at one point. And I want to read this. What Leslie is saying sounds great. And man, was I mad at myself that I didn't read it much earlier. And then other people picked it up and they loved it as well. And we were all sitting there and completely surprised by how good this book is, or how good this series is, really. So the series that I'm talking about is The Rising Kingdom by Curtis Craddock. Book 1 is An Alchemy of Mask and Mirrors. Book 2 is A Labyrinth of Science and Sorcery. And book 3 is The Last Uncharted Sky. I don't know why book 3, the title doesn't fit to the other 2, but here we are. I'll link down below. Sarah is from Sarah Fairy Reads channel. I linked down below her review of the series because there's so much to say about it, and I don't want to spend the next 20 minutes explaining everything. This series has literally everything. It has amazing writing, it has amazing characters and character development, it has a fantastic world that is unique, that is so well thought out, that has the most amazing world building in it. The magic system is awesome. I mean, literally awesome. I don't know what else to say to that. The storyline itself is fantastic. Everything, like literally everything. There's nothing in this entire series that I would call out as like, yeah, maybe not this, you know. This is a series I think a lot of people will love because it brings just so much with it that I believe it will resonate with so many types of readers. It has swashbuckling in it. It has friendship in it. It has all the emotions in it. It has airships. It has, I don't know. I mean, I can go on and on for hours and hours about how much stuff there is that is just fantastic. And literally everything is outstanding in this book. This is some of the most beautiful prose I've ever read in my life. He is really a master of words. He knows exactly how to describe scenes, how to describe emotions, how to describe people. His use of words is unbelievable. It's mind-blowing, really, how good this series is. Again, I could talk 20 minutes about all the different things that I find fascinating about it. Curtis Craddock needs to write more books. I'm sorry. I need more from this man. I just do. I would buy it immediately. It's just so good, so good, so good, so good. Enough with my non-ranking ranking of my favorite books of 2022. These are the books that really stood out for me this year that I enjoyed cover to cover reading, discovering, learning more about the characters, learning more about the world, whatever it was in each specific book. But all of these will stay with me for some time. And then I, of course, want to know from you, what was your favorite book or your favorite books that you've read in 2022? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm really curious to see what you guys have read and what stuck out for you in the last year. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around. And by the way, if you haven't already and you enjoyed the type of books that I am reading, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. It really helps out and encourages me to make more videos, right? Because that's what it is all about. And with that, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and that I'll see you soon with my next video. Bye!